You'll be asked to input some information. So it'll ask for your name, your school, your job role, and your email address. Okay, and then ask you to read the terms and conditions and agree to them. It's really important that you get your email address correct, because you will get a link to the software download sent to your email address. So do make sure you put in a correct email address. And then also just make sure you download the resource pack. What I'll do though after this is I have a document that I've created that outlines how you can install the Active Inspire software at home. And I'll also make sure it has the East Lothian serial number on there as well. And I can send that out to David. And then David, if you don't mind sharing with the people that were on this call, that'd be great, and get them started using it at home if they want to. Okay.
No problem.
So one of the first things that I always mention with Active Inspire right now is how to change your flip chart screen size. And the reason why I talk about this is because when the Active Inspire software was created, it was created for interactive whiteboards. And interactive whiteboards at the time weren't widescreen. And in actual fact, most of the computers that we had at that time weren't widescreen either. So when you leave it as it is as default, what you get is a page like this. Okay, so it's a white page and you've got bands on either side. Okay, so it's a little square in the center there with bands on either side. Now, I can't see you because normally I would get people to just chat in. Yes, that's how they see it as well. But I'm just going to assume that if you've not played around with the settings in your software, this is the view that you see here, okay, with the square in the middle of the page. Now, this drives me bonkers because we've got these lovely widescreen computers, lovely widescreen active panels, and then we have this little tiny surface for putting our information on. So as I said, one of the first things that I always do is I show people how to change that setting. And once you change it once, it will always remember that. So anytime you open a new flip chart or take a new flip chart page, it will remember that setting and that wider flip chart page. So what we ultimately want is this side over here. We want it to be screen size. So to do this, you just need to go up to File. And again, this is the same whether using the Studio interface or the primary interface. So you go up to File in the top menu, and you want to go to Settings, and then you're going to find the one that says Flip Chart. Here you have one that says default page size. So you can see here, I've got screen size selected. So yours is probably default to this, 1024 by 768. All you need to do is choose screen size and then click done. And now whenever you open a flip chart, it will open it up in the wider page, okay? You can see that my page still does have, because I'm in Studio, it's got the gray border down either side. And I leave that there intentionally because this is what we call the world around our flip chart. And the world, there's different ways that I can use that to maximize my page to be able to put more information on it as well. And we're going to take a look at that in this session tonight. What you can do though is if you want to just have the whole entire thing the same color, so it looks like you've got one very, very wide screen. If we go back up to File and Settings, then you've got something here called your world color. So if you click on the little color to the right of it, and in this case I could choose white, it would then make the world white. So now you can see that the world is white there. And if I didn't have a template on, so I've got a template background on this particular page, that would just give me one big white surface. And as I said, it just maximizes the space that I have for creating content that I want to deliver to my students. I'm just going to put that back to gray for a minute, slightly different gray. Okay. The reason why I like to keep it just as screen size, so I still have these borders on either side, is I like to hide things off of it. Okay, so I like to tuck things off the side there, or I might use it just as extra space that my main bit of learning is on this part of the page here, but I might have the information that I want to pull on for them to interact with down the bands on the side. The other reason is I like to talk about saving preparation time. So not only creating my Active Inspire flip chart so I can use it in class to deliver a lesson to my students, but also thinking carefully about how I design my pages so that page could also become a worksheet that I send to my students as well. And that's one thing that I've talked a lot about over the past couple of months when we're talking about remote learning. So instead of having to create my teaching lesson in ActiveInspire and then create the worksheet in Word or a different application, with a little thought, I can create the worksheet in here and be able to share that with my students as well. So I can export that to be able to share that with my students as well. And I've got that just at the end. So if we've got enough time, I'll show everybody how to do that. But anything that I can't fit into this session, what I plan to do is add it into the next one as well. Okay. One last thing that you can change is if we go, oh, sorry, I wanted to mention, when I talk about exporting this, if I wanted to do that, if I were to export the page, it would only export the flip chart page. Okay, so that's another reason why I don't change my world to a different color. So if I had something on the world and I wanted to export the page, everything in the world would be lost. It would only export what's on the actual physical page of the flip chart. Okay. One last thing I wanted to just show you was the default page color as well. So if we, I'm going to take a new flip chart here actually, and if we go up to File and Settings again, and we come back into here at flip chart, you also have default page color. So often I have people saying that they wish that it wouldn't default to the white color. So you can change that very easily. So we just click on there again and have my colors come up. Now this isn't all of the colors I have, because if I click on the little color wheel here, I can go into creating my own custom colors as well. So I could work on it till I find one that I like. Let's go a little bit off white there, maybe a little bit more. Okay, I'm just going to add that to my custom colors so you can see it there, and I'm going to click OK. Now you can see that that little color is changed in there, and I click Done. Now it's not going to change this page because I already had it open, but if I turn the page, you can now see that my page is off white. So if you don't want to have it always as a white background, then you can change the color very easily as well. Another way that you can change the color of your background page is if you right click on the page, you have something here called Set Background. So if I click Set Background, and this one's quite nice because I can have, I could find an image on my computer or a desktop snapshot or overlay. Generally, I would go for image on my computer. And if you wanted to make an image as your background, you could do that as well. I like playing around with the color. So with the color, I can do gradients and I can do different styles. So if I click on the top one, I might say, let's have yellow. And so you can see here, I've got a different gradient of yellow to black. I might choose a different one. Let's go yellow to orange. And if I click on that one, I get more options. So I can create some a little bit more interesting colors on my background by using this option here. And that one's awful bright. But you can see how we've got that gradient of color as well. So it just changes the flip chart page and just makes it a little bit more interesting than just having that white.
Sorry, Janice, there's just a question popped up in the chat. It's just relevant to what you're saying now. It's, can you change the background color of every slide in a pre-made presentation?
Not in a pre-made. I don't think you can in a pre-made. No, you'd need to do it. You'd need to do it beforehand. I don't think so, and I'm going to write that down and come back to you, but I'm pretty sure that no, you can't retrospectively do it. You would have to do it for your flip charts moving forward. Okay.
Thank you.
But thank you. Right. The other thing that I just want to show you here again is if I right click on the page, you also have something here called Grid Designer. And a lot of people don't know that this one exists. If I click Grid Designer, what it enables me to do is I could put some squared paper on my page. I've got my step here, so I could change my step just by clicking in a number here, or I have the little plus or minus. So for younger children, I maybe want to make those squares bigger. The other thing that I can do, you can see that there's lots here, and if I've got any math teachers on the call, this is really great because you can actually create your own custom backgrounds, your own custom paper, and you can design it so that it looks similar to the papers that your students are using at their desks if you want as well. So you have not only ones that you can get in the resource library that are already preset, but you can also create your own pages using the Grid Designer. So lots of different ways that we can use the background. And one of the things I wanted to point out with this as well is you'll notice that because I set the page to screen size, that squared paper goes all the way across the screen as well. So it fills that paper for me as well. So if I was on 1024 by 768, I would just have a square in the middle that had the squared paper. Okay.
Sorry, Janice, there's just one more question. Can the default size and color of the grid be set and kept?
Yes, well, what you would do is create it and then save it. Okay, so I was going to show this later on, but I'll show it quickly now. If I open up my browser here and I want to open up my resource library, okay, and I'm just going to go to my resources and I'm just going to save it under my templates. If I wanted to save this page a certain way to be able to use it again and again, I just right click on the page, go down here to add to library, and I can add that page to my resource library, or I can add the background, whichever one you want, or the grid. Okay, and this means that now I can pull that grid out on any of my pages. So if I take some time to design it, I just need to save it into my resource library, and then I can use it as many times as I want. Okay. Excellent questions already, so do keep those going. Looking at, again, how do we create even more space on that flip chart page? So yes, I can take pages and pages, and I don't have any limit for how long I make my flip chart page. But sometimes all I need is one page with some information that's visible to my students at the time, and some information that I reveal to my students when I want them to see it as the learning is going on. And one of the ways that I can do that is by creating what we call little pull tabs. And as I said, just hiding things off into the world. So I'm going to come up to, let's need to restart. I wanted to show you this Zoom one because I wanted to show you the world. But this is because I need to restart my computer because I've been fooling around with it today. But what Zoom enables me to do, and I'll maybe try and get that fixed for the next one, is I could pick the page up and I wanted to just show you that the world isn't just on the left and right side, that I actually have that gray all the way around the flip chart page. So it means that I can hide things off the flip chart page like this. Okay, so a little pull tab. And all this is this is just made with objects that I've grouped together. So if I select it to ungroup it, you can see I've got some text, I've got a shape here, got another shape here, and I've got text there. To group them together, I just hold my left button down and make sure I have them all selected, and then I just click my group, okay? And then I could just take that and hide that off of my page out of the way. So some examples of how to do that. I'm going to come back and show you how to create it again in a second, but some examples of how that could be used. So for example, this is a piece of text. So we're exploring different types of words in the text. And I picked this out the last time and I keep meaning to change it, American spelling. So we could do it as a spelling activity as well. But to get all of the text, it's quite long, to get all of the text on my page so that it would all show, I would have to make that font quite small. And, you know, having nice and big on the panel or on the interactive whiteboard is so much better and easier for your students to read. So instead of having to make it really small to cram it all on there, what you can do is make little scrolling text boxes like this, okay? And all this is a text box that I have restricted the movement so that it only moves horizontally. And I'm going to show how to do that in a second, just with that pull tab on the other page. But it enables me to be able to scroll that up so that I can focus my class on we're all reading at the same time instead of having all of that information sitting on there. Now with this particular activity, the class were to use the fill tool here, and then they were going to color nouns, verbs, and adjectives in different colors. I could do this with the highlighter. So if I click the highlighter there and we click green, and if we found some nouns that we wanted to then color the nouns, I could do it that way. And we could highlight our nouns just by using the highlighter to color them, okay? But if I want to move my text, the highlights don't move, okay? And the reason for that is because these are different objects and they sit on different layers of the software. So the text is on the middle layer of the software, and the highlight is an annotation, and it defaults to the top layer of the software. So another way of doing that is to use your fill tool. So if I use the little bucket here, and I choose my green again, this time I can click on it, okay, and you can see that it's going to highlight those same words, okay. So we can click on them, and this time when I go back to move the text, that moves with it, okay. So a nice way of just doing that and maximizing the learning that's going on the page. And as I said, being able to have that text at a size that's much easier for my class to read and just scrolling it up and down. Another way that pull tabs can be used, so for example, this activity here, doing a capacity problem and using George's Marvelous Medicine as our discussion point. So what we can do is pull the task on, okay? So I could pull this on and I could read over the task with my class. We could get the highlighter out so we could highlight the key pieces of information, make sure that they understand what they're being asked to do. And then when we're finished with it, we could hide it back off to the side. They could go away in their groups and work on the task. At any point, if they get stuck, they could come up and they could pull that instruction out again and read the instructions. Okay, so one way of doing a pull tab. Now, you can also create pull tabs like this. So once the exercise has been done and the groups are sharing their answers and their methodology, so how they arrived at the answer as well, I might want to get some students to come up and give that example up here on the board. So they could come up, pull up the little tab here, and not in a white pen, we'll get a black pen, and write their answers on here, okay? So show how they figured out the answer to that problem. This container this time, you'll notice it only moves horizontally and the task moved vertically, so it didn't move all over the place. But you'll notice that this one, when I move it, anything that I put on it, those annotations I put on top of it, move with it. Okay, so at any point we could pull that back down again. Okay, let's have a look at the problem and pull it back on again to continue with our writing on there. Okay. Right, so I hope that you find that interesting and want to know how to do that, because we're going to look at how we can make those little pull tabs and how we restrict the movement of objects on the page as well. This page shows so much in such a little page, but these beakers as well. So when we did the problem, they found the solution and then they were able to come up and make the beakers show how much liquid is in them. And this is so simple. All it is just writing shape, but it looks so effective as if the liquid is filling up in that beaker there as well. So just little tricks with the software that just kind of bring the lesson to life. So let's have a look at this one. On here, I've got some objects, I've got some text, I've got a little image there, and I've even got a PDF. So this is a link to a PDF document that I have here. So if I wanted to make my pull tab, as I said, I just use my shapes, okay? I'm going to select that one and I'm going to rotate it this way, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my pull tab come out from the side, okay? So I could put everything that I want onto my pull tab here, group it, and then that becomes my pull tab I can pull in and out, okay? As simple as that. Or if I want to ungroup it, I'm going to take these off again. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I can make this a container like I did in George's Marvelous Medicine. So first of all, I want to restrict the movement of the container so that it only moves horizontally. I think I said it the wrong way the last time, vertically and horizontally. I do know my directions. So I want this to move horizontally across the page. Okay, so I've grouped that together. I'm going to select it, and then I want to get my object edit menu up here. Okay, so we're going to go to properties or property menu. And when I have this selected, this is giving me all of the different properties that I can edit for this particular object. And you can see in this case, it's a grouped object as well. So if I come down to the bottom, I have one here called restrictors. So all I need to do is say that I want that restrictor to move horizontally. Okay, so this time I've got the direction right. And now sometimes I find I've got to do that twice. If you notice, it didn't stick there. Sometimes I find that, and I'm not quite sure why it does that, but let's try again. So we'll get back to that restrictor. And I just want to select horizontally. Okay, I find sometimes I need to select somewhere else, and then that changes it as well. It is worth noting the different properties that you do have in here as well, just besides restricting the movement, because sometimes you want to make it so that they can't resize the objects on the page as well. So you can say disallow them to resize objects if you want to as well. So there's various properties in here you can change. So now when we do that, this should move only to the side. So it doesn't matter where my mouse goes, you can see it's only moving horizontally on the page. Now, to make these objects stick to that, what I need to do is select it. And again, I'm going to come into my property browser here, but this time I want to make it a container. And this is a really, really simple container that can be used in so many different ways. And all you want to do is where it says can contain nothing, you want to change that to can contain anything. Okay. And now if I take these objects and put them on the page, it means that I can now slide them. Oh, my text does that sometimes. Generally, it sticks. It should stick. I'm not sure why my text does this every once in a while. But you can see the other objects have stayed on there and they move with that in and out. So I can have them off the page. When I want to use them, I just drag them off that container and tuck it back, that pull tab back out of the way again. Okay, so again, containers, pull tabs are great for just maximizing the page, just giving you more area by hiding things that you don't immediately need or that you want to reveal to your class in time, just off the side there. Okay, before I move on, David, are there any questions around that? Was that useful for people?
There's been no questions so far, Janice.
Okay, perfect. I also like comments. So if you're finding what you're seeing useful as well, don't hesitate to pop that into the chat as well, because I always like to see that I'm showing you things that you would use in the classroom as well. With our flip charts, there's lots of ways, again, that you can save time. So I showed you how you can save pages into resource libraries. So you can spend some time to design pages and then save them into your resource library so that you can use them time and again. Well, you can do the same with objects as well. So for example, we've got this little chest here. Now, if I were to deconstruct this chest, so I'm going to come up here and go into design mode for a minute and select it. You can see it's a grouped object. And the way this is grouped is I've used the camera tool to take a snapshot of it. And this just sits right on top of it so you don't need to notice it's there. But the way it's set up is this snapshot is on the top layer of the software and the rest of it is in the middle layer of the software. And what that means is I now have a chest here that I could drag a coin up and I could put the coin into the box. Okay, so I've got this container here where I could hide things away in there, or I could have them already in there and then have my class be able to pull them out as well. Okay, once I have it locked on the page, they could then pull those objects out. This is a bit fiddly to make, but you only need to make it once, because again, once you've made it, you can save that into your resource library. So to save it into the resource library, again, I would just open up my browser. Now, if you're in primary, remember that your resource browser will open up down at the bottom here, okay? And you need to click the little upwards arrow at the right-hand side here, and that will open up something similar to this pane here. And again, because it's just my resources, things that are unique to me, I'm just going to save them under my resources here. If it was the main resource pack that came with the software, this is where I always say that you go for that, is all of the stuff that installs with the application or I install at the time of the application. Anything else that I use for my lessons, I tend to save under my resources. I can create a new resource pack if I want to, just by clicking on the little ... here. Now, I'm using the latest version of the software. If you have a slightly older version of the software, the ... will look more like this little notepad here, okay? But that's where you would find it, just at the top right here of my resources. So if I click on that, I want to create a new folder. Okay. I then select the folder that I want. So I could just have new class here and I have it open, and then I just drag it and drop it into that folder. And that means that that now sits in my resource library, so I can pull that out on any page and it will keep that property so that, oh, it's because of the order that I pulled it out. So if I move all of these, I'm just going to bring them to the front. It still works like that, that I can put my coins inside. Okay, so it just means that you can create objects to use lots of different times, but you only have to create it once. Now, after this session, I'm going to share this flip chart with David as well. So you can try that out with this little chest here if you think that that's something that you would use, saving that into your resource library. If you put properties on objects, it will also save those properties. So for example, with these coins, if I was doing a money activity, I would maybe want to have multiple coins. Now, instead of having to put one on and then hit duplicate, duplicate, duplicate to get loads of coins on there, and then trying to stack them on top of each other because I'm fiddly like that, what I can do is right click on it and choose this one here, drag a copy. Now, whenever I hover over top of an object that has drag a copy on it, I get the little hand with the plus, and I can just drag that up, and I have infinite copies of that particular object. If I wanted to have all of these coins as drag a copy, I can save that precious couple of seconds by selecting them all and going to that menu, and I can put drag a copy on all of them at the same time. Now, I think I took it off that one because it already had it on. Okay, but you can put drag a copy onto multiple objects as well. So we just select them and select drag a copy. Now all of these should have that property of drag a copy. And if I wanted to save these into the resource library, I could just select them all and I could drag them and drop them in. Okay, now whenever I take these out, they'll come out, all of the coins at the same time, but all of those coins, and it's proven me wrong, should have that property still attached to it. Okay, so properties, it should keep the property. I wonder if it's because I dragged them all in together. If I had dragged them in separately, they would have dragged out with that property attached to them as well. Okay.
Sorry, Janice, there's just one more question. Is there a way to get rid of the white box that sometimes appears around objects?
Yeah, so there's several ways that you can do that. One is you have, let me see, it's in the property browser here. If you select an object, and come down to the bottom, under miscellaneous, you can pick through that color. So if it was a solid color around it, then you would just pick through the color. So you would say true, choose here, white, I want to pick through the white, or use your color dropper here to select that color, and then make it transparent, true, so it's transparent. Okay, and that would enable you to do that. So that's one way. You can also, and I'm wondering if they've changed it in this one, because we had another button at the top, and I'm sure it's in the primary interface, that a little icon here that when you click that, that will also remove backgrounds on some objects. And again, if they're solid backgrounds, it removes it the best. Okay. Again, David, if you don't mind writing that down, I'll look that up and send instructions for that for sure, to people as well. But that's what I tend to do, is this one here into my property browser, and then I want to go down to the bottom to miscellaneous, and I use this quite a lot, the pick through one as well, and that does help to take the backgrounds away. Okay. Right, you can also, as I said, the resource library, it comes with loads of resources that are available in there, and loads of different clip art objects that you have. So you've got two resource libraries. You've got the My Resource, and as I said, this is the one that I would say you tend to build up yourself, and it is unique to your login on your computer. So if you share your computer with somebody else, your My Resources are only accessible for your login. The shared resources install on your computer in a way that they're accessible to any users on the computer. And with these ones, I tend to keep them the same as what, as I said, they installed with, or for that supplementary resource pack that I installed as well. So when you install the Active Inspire application, you get 5 resource packs that install with the application install. You get activities and templates, backgrounds, grids, lesson building tools, and sounds. This one here, the subjects resource pack, is the extra download. So do you remember on the page that I showed you about downloading the software from our website, I pointed out download Active Inspire, the application, but I also pointed out the main resource pack. And that's what this is. Okay, so if you don't have a folder that says subjects under shared resources, then you probably want to have a look at getting that into your software. And if you are using a school computer with that, you don't have to go to your IT to get them to put that in. It's not an application install. You just download the file once it's on your computer, double click on it to launch it, and then you just import it into your resources of your Active Inspire software. So you should be able to do that on your own. But it has the main sort of clip art by subject area that you can use for creating content in Active Inspire. And all of this is copyright free as well. Okay, so you've got that. You've got some great ones here in your activities and templates. So we've got things like our 100 grids, alphabets. These are our nice little drag and drop, kind of like a dry whiteboard that little children might use. You've got art activities, calendar coloring. So there's lots of little activities down here as well. So it's worth having a look and seeing what's available there. You've got some great backgrounds for illustration. You've got paper backgrounds. Okay, and along with the paper backgrounds, you also have patterns, photos, and textures. So again, instead of just having a white or colored background. And then we also have grids. So you've got crosses, dots, graph paper, lined, horizontal, and you can see that there's a good variety of papers as well. So these papers you can't edit, they're set on the page, but you would drag them on and you would be able to use them. Okay, so have a look through your resources because there's lots of fantastic stuff there that you can use for building your lessons. But you can also bring in resources from other locations to use in your lesson as well. So I don't know if people or Windows users are familiar with the little Windows Snipper Tool. This is my favorite tool. I love this tool so much, the Snipper Tool. So I use the Snipper Tool an awful lot to just capture little bits of things that I want on my computer. And when I use it with Active Inspire, I can use the snip as normal, and then all I do is just paste it onto my flip chart page. And that enables me to bring in images or little snippets from other locations into my flip chart very easily. But you can also bring in images and documents and things that you have stored into your computer as well in several ways. So the easiest way if you want to bring images into your computer is to use the Insert Media option. So you go up to the top here and you do Insert and Media. When I click that, it then takes me into my hard drive of my computer and I can locate my pictures. So I'm just going to go to pictures in this case. Okay, and I'm just going to choose this folder here and I'll choose this picture and bring it in. And it didn't like that and stopped my software. So give me a second while I just sort that. Get all of these down. You can see I always have loads of things open. Bring it open again. Okay. I apologize for that little blip. Let's say yes. We're going to get to return there. Okay, so let's come back. So I'm afraid to do that again, but if I go Insert Media and then you choose the image that you want and then you just open it and it will bring it onto your flip chart page like this. Okay, so this is a great way of bringing in images externally into it. And this is one of the things I talked about a lot about with remote learning was that at home, the children are sharing their content with their teacher and what they're doing with their teacher, but they're not often seeing what each other is doing in this situation. So it was a great way of just being able to bring in some of the images that were being shared on Seesaw or Google Classroom so that other children in the class in a live lesson would be able to see what's going on. And that could be photographs. You can see here, I've got a little snapshot of a piece of work that my son did as well. So it could be just displaying work, showcasing achievements that students have done as well, but easy to bring things in. What I did want to do, and just because I don't want that software to close again for whatever reason it did, is I'm going to open up this picture here because I want this for a second. And I'm just going to use my snipper tool. So we'll show you. If I just snip around the part that I want, okay, and then all I need to do here is I'm just going to Control V on my keyboard, and I've pasted that image onto my flip chart. Okay, so I've got him here. Now, what I also like to do, and particularly with younger learners, but I have seen this done in secondary schools as well, and the kids really like it, is you could take your class and you could build your class into your flip chart lessons as well. So instead of just having some random little clip art person, you could actually have different students in your class join your flip chart lessons. But I wouldn't necessarily want to have it with all the background and everything around it. So what you can do is using your camera tool. So you find that just with your tools. In primary, remember this menu will open up down at the bottom, okay, down along here. And it's just a little bit more visual. But if you hover over top of anything with your mouse, you just want to find your camera tool. And then the camera tool we're going to use is this one here called Freehand Snapshot. So with that, and this is much easier actually when you do it standing at the panel or the board, and just doing it with your pen or your mouse. I could draw around him. Not so easy with my mouse here. Okay, draw around him, and then I'm going to put him to the current page. So now I can get rid of that, and all I've got is the student in my class. Okay, and now he can become part of my lessons. What I tend to do when I was teaching is at the beginning of the year is I would get this all ready and I would create my class. So you can see here, I've got my class down the side. And again, to save this, all I would do is open up the folder I want it saved in and drag the pictures in. And then you can see I could have as many copies of him as I want to drag out to be able to use in my flip chart lessons. And you can see I've got some other little ones in my class there as well. Okay. Right. Are there any questions, David, before we go on, or any comments?
No questions as such. There was one question, but I think you answered it about the availability of the flip chart. So yeah. Okay.
I hope people are finding this useful anyway and getting some ideas that you might be able to take back. I'm going to skip this one. We'll come back to that another time because I don't have that Zoom working. But what I want to talk about now is just reminding people of some of the tools that are available within the software. So Active Inspire comes with some great math tools. So you've seen already right-clicking on the page and you get your grid designer up and you can create your grids and save your grids into your resource library to use again. But if we go to our hammer and spanner, and again in primary, that would open up down here at the bottom, you've got your math tools. Now in primary, you don't need to open up your math tools in this way. They will just display in that toolbar at the bottom. And we can see here that we've got a ruler, set square, protractor, set of compasses, XY origin, dice, and calculator. Okay, so there's various things here. So if we select one of them, like our ruler, bring it up onto the page. Okay, if I was on my panel, I could be using my multi-touch just to manipulate that object as well. What I've done is my math tools all have what we call the draw zone. So you'll see the gray area at the bottom and the top, and that just makes it easier for myself or learners to come up to know where they need to place their pen when they want to draw using this object, so using this ruler. So they would know that if I place it in this area, you can see it snaps onto the ruler, whereas this one, it would just draw freely, okay? So snap onto my ruler and then it draws a nice straight line. So all of the tools mimic the physical manipulatives that children are using at their desks. So it's a great way of modeling nice and big on the front of classroom display what you want your learners to be doing back at their desks using these tools. When you hover over different parts of it, you get to know it as well, but hovering over different parts means that you can do different things. So I can rotate it if I hover just on either side. This one allows me to pick it up and move it around. And the little dot, 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 or that menu in the center means that I can change the scale on the top and the bottom. I could hide or show that angle as well if I didn't want to have it there. And I can also click on that to close it. Okay, so as I said, some really great math tools that are available there. But what I really wanted to point out was the settings for that again. So if we go up to File and then down to Settings, there's some great ways that you can customize the software to make it work for yourself as a teacher, but also for your learners in the classroom. And that's one thing that I've always really liked about Active Inspire, is that I can make it work for me and for my class. I don't have to just use it as it is out of the box. So if we come here and then we go to Tools, you can see here that you've got different settings that you can change for different tools. So you've got, right now it's showing that my default tool is my pen, which I like to keep it like that. But I've got some different options that I can do with my pen as well. We've got the math tools down here. Okay, so it's showing me the different text color, tool text color. We can change the translucency of the tools as well. So you can make it very transparent or less transparent. And you can change the tool size. This is the one that I showed you that had the draw zone. So if I want the draw zone, just to make it easier so my learners know where to put the pen to draw the line with the ruler, I just show that draw zone there as well. But what I really like about this is that I can customize that again, just to make it look a little bit more similar to the tools that the children are using at their desks as well. You can see here you've got some options for the shape tool. So it always defaults by you draw a shape from the top down. But if you want to, you can change that and draw shapes from their center as well. And then you can see you've got some options for the dice roller. The other thing here with the calculator is it will automatically default to pick up the software's calculator, so the Active Inspire calculator, but you don't have to use that. So you can see right now I have it set up to the operating system calculator, so it would pick up the calculator that came with my Windows computer. But you can take that even further, because I know that there's a lot of maths and science teachers out there that want to have their scientific calculator, and they have particular ones that they like. So if you have a calculator installed on your computer, you can, through the XEX file, you could link that to Active Inspire. So instead of opening up the Active Inspire really simple calculator or the operating system calculator, what you would do is just click on the blank space here, okay, which makes this field here available. And you would click on the field over here, and then it takes you into your computer, and you would just locate that file, that calculator file, and you would be able to have it so that when you open up the calculator on the page, that it would open up your particular calculator that you want to use, as opposed to the one that comes with the software. Okay, so again, just different ways to customize. Another thing that you can do with the math tools is you do have some, if we go up to the actions here, we've got some drag and drop tools. So sometimes it's nice to just have the tools on the page. So instead of having to go to the toolbar to get them, you just want the tools you want your learners to use just on the page there. So I'm just going to take a different page for this one. And if I go to drag and drop, you can see I could just take the ruler and I could put the little ruler icon down on the page. And this is now an action object. So when I click on that, that will open up the ruler and it's ready to go. Okay. So you've got little action objects that you can drop on the page for things as well. Any questions about that before we move on, David?
No further questions, Janice.
Okay, no problem. Again, please just feel free to pop anything in there. And as I said, I hope that these are some ideas that you can use as well. Okay, I'm going to leave this one looking at links right now, because I've got a couple other things I want to talk about, and I notice we're getting close to the time. So this is just a different way. We looked at inserting media and inserting pictures, but you can also insert things like animated GIFs or video files or links to websites as well. So I think maybe we'll explore that a little bit further in the April session, how you can insert links into it. One of the things that I get asked quite a lot is about being able to annotate over top of the desktop. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the desktop Annotate tool just now. Before we do that though, I want to talk about the power tools. So we have what we call power tools, and there's two of them. You have the screen shade. So this is just a screen shade I put up here. So if I want to reveal information slowly on the page, I can use my screen shade to do that. Now the screen shade works in all four ways, but one way at a time. So you can also pull it in from the side or pull it up from the bottom. But you can see here, it just covers it up, and then I can just drag that to reveal the information on my page. You can also just turn that off. You also have the Spotlight tool as well, and Spotlight tool comes in different types of spotlights. I'm just going to choose a square one. So with this, again, where I hover means I can pick it up and move it. If I go closer to one of the blue lines there, I can resize it. But this just means that I can pull it around and just reveal little pieces on my page, little parts on my page. Okay, and we can come out of that. Now, the reason why I wanted to show you those tools is because we're going to go into Desktop Annotate. Now, Desktop Annotate on my computer is this little button here. And it's red, and that's because I'm in the latest version of the software. If you have a slightly older version of the software, it'll be there in the same location, but it'll just be a pen and it will be highlighted red. So I want to click on that, and you can see it now takes me to my desktop. So when I'm here, I have my tools, so I could annotate on top of it. So we could take notes on top of a website that we're looking at. Maybe write some ideas up there as we're going along, but just really easy way of being able to annotate over top of anything I have on my desktop. The way it works is I always compare it to an overhead projector. So think of those acetates that you would put an acetate on top of the content, and your writing is on that acetate. So when I want to get rid of the writing, then I can just turn a page and I have a new acetate ready to go on top of there. If I click on my little select button though here, I could then interact with the content on my page. Okay, so I'm not stuck with using this. I could go back to being able to move on the website, or open up a new something new that I want to look at as well. Okay, so you're not stuck to just what you have open there. You can continue to interact with what you have on your desktop as well. But one of the nice things that you can do as well is with these tools, you could say have your revealer tool on top of a web page. So again, just cutting down the amount of information that you wanted to show. Or maybe you have a picture up there, and you could use your Spotlight tool to see if your class can guess what the picture is of. Maybe it's going to be our stimulus for our next topic. But it's the fact that in desktop, I have use of these tools that I can use in Active Inspire and out of Active Inspire as well. Okay, and when we come back, I just click on that button again, and it takes me back into my Active Inspire flip chart. Okay, so I keep mentioning that you might be using a slightly older version to the one that I'm using, and that's because the version that I'm currently on is 2.21. Now, at the beginning, I talked about being able to install it on a personal computer. If you do install it on a personal computer, you will get the latest version of the software, because that is the version that we have on our website. So you might find that you have a newer version on your personal computer than what you have at school. But you can continue to do the same things. So if you've created it in a slightly older version of the software, it will open up in 2.21. If you create it in 2.21, it will open up in a slightly older version of the software. There were a couple of additions that we added to the latest version that won't be available though in the older one. So we have something called activities here. We have a nice little activity builder, and I think again we'll save that for the next session. And you also have the timer, which is similar to the timer that is on our active panels if you have one of those in your classroom as well. But the main thing that I wanted to point out to you here is our new resource library. And if you don't have the latest version of the software, you can still go to our new resource library just by typing this link into your URL. So resourcelibrary.prometheanworld.com. So when I click on this, it takes us to a website. To get the most out of it, you need to sign in. Okay, so you need to register for an account and sign into it. But what we have here is content that is created by teachers and shared on here to be able to use in your own classroom. So some of you might have been familiar with Promethean Planet way back when. A lot of the content that we had on Promethean Planet and newer stuff you can find on our resource library here. So you can see I just typed in a keyword at the top, shape, and you can see that it's telling me that there's 571 items that have shape in their keywords as well. So lots of great content. When you find one that you're interested in, you can click on it and it will take you to a window to give you just a bit more information on it. So I have a little slideshow here so I can see the different pages. I can have an idea of the age appropriateness, and I do apologize, it does say grades, but we are kind of used to being able to do that from different curriculums anywhere and where they fit into ours. And what you can do is if you're using the latest version of the software, you can open this directly into Active Inspire without downloading it. But if you're using an older version of the software, you need to download it onto your computer first and then open it up in your Active Inspire. Remembering that when you do take a flip chart from here and open it up in your own software, you don't have to use it exactly as it is, because you can customize it and make it work for your class and your learners. Okay, so just to finish up, we do have, I'm not sure how many people are aware of this, but we do have a new VLE that we launched this summer, so a virtual learning environment. And on here, we have some courses about Active Inspire. So some of the things I've shown you today, there's a whole course on using media. There's a whole course on different ways that you can use text. We've got a couple of great courses that are just hints, tips, and different ideas on using the software. But also on here, we do have our introductory courses as well. So our introduction to Active Inspire in the Studio Skin, and also introduction to Active Inspire in the primary skin. Okay, so lots of information to be getting on with. As I said, I will send this presentation to David as well, that he can share out with all of you if you do want it. I always find it's nice to watch the video recording again, pick out the parts that you really want to know, and then to be able to have the flip chart to anchor you on that learning as well, and just give it a try in your own software too. Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing and come back here. There we go. And just before we finish off, is there any questions? Are there any comments anybody wants to share? You can either type them in or feel free to unmute yourself as well. But I think...
Janice, there was just two questions there that I think we didn't manage to come to. Mrs. Lang asked, can you save the revealer on the slide before you get to that one, or do you have to introduce it to the...
No, you can. That is such a good point, and something that I glossed over very quickly as well. So it is worth showing. So I'm going to do that very quickly. Okay. Let's come back on there and share my screen again. So if I wanted to put the screen shade on this page, I would just go up to View, and I'm going to open up my browser. And I want to go to my properties here. Okay, so I've not selected an object on the page, so this is the properties for the whole page. And what you want to do is you want to go to Tools, and you're going to select on this page, I want the Revealer tool. Now I don't have to have the Revealer tool just cover the entire page, because if I had a title, I could pull it down and then I could choose to save the Revealer position here. Okay, what you now need to do though, if you don't want that revealer to be on the next page, okay, so right now if I turn the page, that revealer tool is still there. I don't want it there. So what I have to do is in my property browser under Tools here, I just change that to Tools Off. And now the screen shade is only on that page. It's not on the one afterward. And when you save the chart and open it up, the screen revealer will be there. Okay. I hope that answers it, Mrs. Lang. Any other questions or comments? Oh, I see. I share a laptop with other job share partner. Can you download? No, unfortunately, Active Inspire can't go on to Chromebooks. I believe you can't. You don't really install anything on Chromebooks. It tends to be more things that you would use off the network or from the internet. But Active Inspire can only be installed on a Windows computer, a Mac computer, or a Linux computer at this time. Okay. Any other questions or comments before we end the session today? As I said, I hope that you did find it useful. There's lots of information, but David did record it, and we'll be sharing the recording on YouTube, so you can go back and have a look at it later. We do have another session scheduled for later on in April, so it'd be really great to see some people back on it. And also, as always, just spread the word and let your colleagues know about these sessions as well. Thank you very much for joining us.